think it's the way life changes when in love, yeah. I surround my soul with the positivity. That's why I don't worry about the things that I don't see, yeah. These days I don't worry about much. I think we should have some more fun. I still dream about the days when we were young. I'll take a hit and still finish in one, yeah, yeah. Oh, 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 oh. Memory lane isn't that too far away from our hearts, yeah, yeah. The ones we keep close, we should never let go. So tell me who you love, baby. Take a moment to unwind, fix yourself and realign yourself with the world, baby. Breathe slow, baby, yeah. We should breathe slow, we should breathe slow, we should breathe slow. We should breathe slow, we should breathe slow, we should breathe slow. We should breathe slow, we should breathe slow, we should breathe slow, we should breathe slow.
What's up, internet world? This is Martin with Steadfast Warehousing and Orion Intermodal here in Houston. In these clips, we want to talk to people about trucking and what we do. Hopefully you can find it valuable. If you do, like, share, and subscribe, and we're here to help. Thank you. Hello everybody, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Martin with Steadfast Warehousing and Orion Intermodal. And we're trying something new here today. Trying to see how it goes, what happens with this, and we're just going to take it one day at a time, one step at a time. And what we try to do and what we're aiming to do with these videos is to bring some awareness, some knowledge, some expertise into the trucking industry. There's a lot of things being posted out there. Some are good, some are bad. We just want to, contribute to that. Hopefully people could, find some value in these videos somewhat. Like I said, we've been doing this a long time, and I think it's time that we start sharing some of our opinions with people we know. We only want to talk to people and truthfully that have the knowledge in the trucking industry, have the experience, and have the years or have the time that they've put in to back up what they say. Not just, been doing it for just a few months or something like that. So the people that we aim to talk to are people who actually know what they're doing and they know what they're talking about. And at the end of the day, we just want to bring value to the videos and to the people out there in the trucking community. We hope that you guys find these videos valuable, find these videos informative, and that something that we say along here can help you either make money, be profitable, or at least save you from potential damages or outcomes, or bad outcomes. Sorry about that. Without further ado, real quick, the first person I'd like to introduce to people out there on the internet world would be Stafford Wilson, currently of Jetco Delivery, a place I used to work for, a place that I truly admire for their safety procedures and how they handle and how they operate business. It's somebody that, in all reality, I look up to as a business, as in the trucking industry. They've done things right for a long time, so personally speaking, that's somebody that I really do hold to a different standard in the trucking community. Without further ado, Stafford is intermodal manager at Jetco Delivery. He's also a driver advocate for them. He's going to share a little bit more of what he does with you. So let me go ahead and pass this on to him. Stafford, go ahead, sir.
Wow. Okay. Well, Stafford Wilson is like he mentioned to you, but I've been in this industry now for probably about 30 years now. I've done it all. Pretty much, I've done tankers, flatbed, intermodal van, containers, the whole nine. I've been in business for myself, and I finally made my home here about 10 years ago, and I'm looking forward to sharing that information with you.
Cool. And how long have you been at Jetco?
It's almost 10 years now.
10 years. Good. And in your current position?
What I do here is I deal with the training, cross training, the onboarding, so orientation and stuff like that. It all kind of funnels through me, and I don't know. It's been rewarding to watch all of this unfold and see people come in and see the difference in how we do things.
Okay. Now, out of all those things that you see when drivers hire on or when drivers come in, what are some of the obstacles that you think drivers are facing right now, day to day?
One of the biggest things I think that drivers deal with are the delays. Sometimes when you pull up to when drivers make deliveries and stuff like that, it's the delays, the time constraints. With this electronic logging deal right now, time it's critical. It can make a difference between you doing that one extra load a day. 5 days a week it adds up. That can make a significant difference in your paycheck.
What do you think something that we can do about that as far as helping drivers not get stuck I mean, I know it's hard, like in the trucking industry, like as far as the containers goes, I can't really do something about the port.
Mm-hmm.
So that's out of my hands. I can't prevent a long line. But I know in the warehouse side, we could possibly prevent it from a driver having to wait 5 hours. So how, on the warehouse side, what is something that we can do to help a driver out? At least, here's what I think. I know Jetco is very good at helping drivers with water and with ice and stuff. At least that's when I was there. Now, there's like a warehouse. What we do is we provide drivers at least the bare minimum of drinking water, Gatorade. Maybe if you can provide a little bit of food if you have, a restroom. During those downtimes, those delays, drivers are gonna get hungry. Drivers are gonna get thirsty. Drivers are gonna get, want to go to the restroom. What is something that the trucking community, like I said, not the ports, because that's a different beast. The railroad, that's a different beast. What is something that the trucking community, not truck stops, but the community in general can probably do to help them more? Like, okay, let's say us, we give the drivers, a bag of ice. That doesn't mean that when they get to a warehouse, they're gonna need that bag of ice. What the driver needs to do is get out of the warehouse pretty quick. It's unloaded and loaded or whatever, reloaded as fast as possible, right?
Okay.
Now, if he doesn't get there, if these delays happen, like you're saying, how can we prevent these delays from the future happening? By appointments, scheduling better.
Even with appointments, and I'm speaking from my own personal experience, not how we handle things as a company, but even from my own personal experience, I think the best thing to do for a driver could do is to prepare. You carry certain things that you need, before you get there. Being on time helps. Trust me, when you get somewhere and you're late, they will make you wait. They'll work you in. I've seen it 15 minutes, 10 minutes behind, and they'll make you wait 2-3 hours. The other thing, I don't know exactly if the company can do it all. You got to be aware of where you're going.
Yeah. I think here's the thing. From a dispatch perspective, from a driver being late, it hurts us. Like, it doesn't hurt. Like, okay, so you can recuperate if the driver shows up a little bit late. But if he's late and the warehouse holds him up for 3 or 4 hours, now we're behind on this side. Now it starts hurting us. So on that side now, there's a famous one that I can tell you about. I don't want to mention the name, but he was late 15 minutes. They actually unloaded him the next day. They didn't, not even a few hours. It took they had him sit until the next day. The manager at the place told me that if I was late to my plane for 15 minutes, do you think my plane would come back for me? And I was like, well, no. You have to rebook another flight.
Okay.
So that's what he was telling me. I get the analogy, but let's be fair where we gotta be fair.
Okay.
We're not in a plane. We're in a warehouse with an 18-wheeler. To the extent to where you have to drop it until the next day, that's kind of absurd. So there are places I think that are taking advantage of a driver being late for 5 or 10 minutes. That hurts. I think on that aspect that needs to stop. Cause so part of the delay, I'm sorry that I got a flat, or I'm sorry that there was an accident on the road. I'm late 5 or 10 minutes. But now I have to wait a whole day because of that. That's not fair. So I think if more warehouses, you're right, if more warehouses knew about the electronic log and what the drivers face, I think they would be more mindful, more respectful of not trying to hold the driver back.
It's not the way it used to be, you know, where you could actually, I mean, you could work for 20 hours and still have, you know, 3 hours left on. It's not like that no more, you know, and I think that I think it has improved, but it's taken a while for some people to wrap their minds around. These guys need to get in and out of these warehouses, especially when you got an appointment time.
Yeah.
You got an appointment, I mean, you shouldn't have to wait no more than 30 minutes, an hour, I would think, before, you know, they can address you and get you out of there.
Yeah.
If it's a dropping hook, it needs to be a dropping hook.
A lot of times when they tell you that, and they tell you, no, the driver has to wait, and it turns into a 3 or 4 hour thing, and they're like, oh, we're not gonna pay waiting time. That hurts. It was supposed to be a drop, man. It turned out to be something else.
Mm-hmm.
Or it was supposed to be a live load, now you're telling me to drop, but 2 hours later, that hurts.
Yes.
So yeah, no, I get you on that, man. Alright, next question. What are the differences, or what are the different things, what are the different needs do you see between an owner-operator and a company driver? What are their needs? Does one need, you know, more money? Does one need, you know, more help with tools? Or what do they require different things? What are the differences between a company driver and an owner-operator?
Aside from the differences, I think the better question would be what.
By the way, I'm gonna say something on this one. The reason I have a chessboard on here is because Stafford and I for years have been having we're never gonna play a true game of chess, but I just kind of want to tease him a little bit because of this. So go ahead. I'm trying to soften it up a little bit, make it more easy.
I don't know so much as the differences, but I think the similarities is more what I would want to speak on is that they both need consistency. You know, when you talk about, you know, for instance, like taking certain loads or turning down certain loads. I mean, I've seen it where, you know, people turn down a load for, it's on operator for, it's $100. You know, so what would you rather? Would you rather take zero for that and wait till the next load, or would you rather go ahead and make that $300-400?
Correct.
You know, same thing with company drivers. I mean, you got to think about consistency. You know, even if you're hourly, a lot of times people fall into that hourly mindset and thinking, oh well, I'm getting paid and this, that, and the other, but you still have to be productive. I mean, you got to think about the company. It has to make money just like you do.
That's the hardest one, man. As a dispatcher, trying to make the company money, the driver money, and the customer money, that's a hard, because the driver, for the most part, he has to worry about his family.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I respect that because everybody does. But when you're in the dispatcher role, you have to worry about all three of them to a high degree. It's, you know, and then if you have a driver constantly pushing back over $100 load, you know, $30, $50, or you didn't pay me the overweight, or you didn't pay me the scale fee. And you know, sometimes now there's on this side, there's customers that really don't want to pay for it, or you just can't charge for that. One of the two things.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the driver's fault that you can't charge for that or whatever.
Right.
Some things I think you should pay the driver for it because he did the job, he did the work. But I'll tell you, on the owner-operator side, the company driver side, when I used to dispatch company drivers, I didn't really get a lot of pushback for financial things because it was different for them. I think they understand that thing, I think, a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But the owner-operator that sees probably the profit and loss as a load-by-load basis, I think they get more pushback, especially on a bobtail. I'm like, dude, you don't want a bobtail for, you know, 30 miles, but you're gonna make $200 after that, $400, $500, $600. You know, on that 30-40 mile bobtail, you're gonna lose $10 or $15 in fuel, especially with the fuel prices right now. So I try to break that down for them. But for me, dispatching a driver like right now, during these rate times that the rates are a little bit lower, drivers will ask you how much the load pays a lot before they take the load. Versus in 2018, it was gravy, man. Everybody was just living life, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Now the tables have turned, now it's a little bit different. So I think we have to adapt to that scenario. If a driver asks you, hey, how much the load pay, be mindful that he's trying to figure out how much his expenses are going to be on his side.
Mm-hmm.
And at least give him a heads up. Hey, look, I only got $1,000 in it. I can only pay you, you know, 800, 900, whatever the case may be. And say, look, after that, it's on you. or I mean, like, look, it's $200 in fuel, you know, that's all I got in it. I think we could explain it to drivers better.
We should. I mean, you got to think of it this way. These owner operators, I mean, they're running a business. You know, they had to have licenses and insurance just like any other company would. You know, and they need to know. You know, they need to know what they need to operate. You know, well, you don't want to take it for free.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I've seen stuff.
Sticker shock at the end. What?
Yes, it should not be a surprise. You know, for them to find out after the fact that load, you know, pays substantially less. You know.
Yeah.
You know.
Dude, I've seen it, man. Not like I used to work at a company, or not necessarily that it happened. I think it was just sometimes mistakes, but some mistakes are very noticeable, especially if they happen time and time again. Like if you tell a driver I'm gonna pay you $1,000 and then it ends up being $750 or $800, you know what I mean?
Well,
you can't go a week later and say, oh yeah, but what had happened was, I mean, you gotta tell the driver from the beginning. Look, even if you like us, we've messed up both with drivers and with customers. Like I'll tell you, all right, Stafford, I'm gonna give you $1,000 in our load, and you're expecting $1,000, but then a week later you show I'll give them. Well, we only got $800 for you. I'm sorry. Your mind already went. Something went wrong. They stole from me. We've taken it like a champ, and we've said, you know what? We're gonna lose money. We said 1,000 is 1,000. A lot of people don't do that.
Well, I mean, again, your paycheck, you know, or your settlement should not be a surprise on Friday.
It shouldn't.
You know,
Just like the customers don't want a surprise on their invoice.
You can't run a household or a business like that. You know, with this, you know, you got this deficit and you got repairs and maintenance and look at all of, you know, the requirements that we have right now. You know, for drivers to maintain their trucks and do this and do that. You can't do that if you're gonna put it in the shop and you like $800 short that week. It normally just doesn't work out like that. Yeah.
And that's, dude. And I guess what people need to understand about trucking is that how much does an oil change cost? No less than what, $200?
Or more, yeah.
Or more at the least.
Yes.
Just an oil change. And a regular car is $40, $30.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get it for $20, $25 for a regular car.
Mm-hmm.
So for a regular for an 18-wheeler, that's no less than $200 plus. So that's just an oil change. And then on top of that, if something goes wrong, you know that one little $5 piece in the truck is gonna end up turning into a $500 piece.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
At the end of it, when they're in the middle of it, well, the mechanic's gonna say, "Well, we're already here. You might as well do this," and it turns into $1,000 like that.
Yeah.
And I see it. So to shortchange a driver or constantly have payroll errors on drivers' checks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. $100, 200, 800, 1,000 of a mistake, that's a problem.
Well, and then you also got to look at, you know, that can cause retention issues, you know, because now you kind of violating that trust. You know, the guy said, you know, he took it without asking you, or you know, now there's a surprise, and most of the time a driver's his first line of thinking is they screwed me.
Something, they're stealing from you,
right.
They're taking something.
That type, and that ruins it, man. You know, because a driver will retaliate. If he feels like you shorted him on a run, he may not be available for their next run.
Yeah, he'll probably say, "Nah, I'm not gonna do that."
Yeah, I got this cut off. You know, and I'm not throwing anybody in the bus, but drivers will talk. You know, they called you as a driver and said, "Hey, I got this cut off. You in the area that you want it." Well, now you've called me.
Mm-hmm. Now you're gonna tell me.
You pissed me off. My paycheck was not what I thought it was going to be, and guess what? No, I'm not going to answer my phone.
Yeah.
Let me help you out. I'm not even going to contest it with you.
Yeah. Fridays, that happens a lot, believe it or not. And then sometimes also on good checks, Mondays drivers don't show up, but that's another one. But yeah, that's a good one though. That's a good one, man, for real. All right. Now, since we're on the topic of paying drivers and stuff, what is something that companies can do, trucking companies can do, to make a driver more business-minded, more business savvy, more prepared for business scenarios? Like, I've always said the LLC thing. You know, if owner-operators or a trucking company, like right now, if we hire a driver, most drivers get paid with their names. Like all their checks and their settlements is their names. And I get it, that's how we do things. It's not a big deal. and as long as they pay their taxes and do whatever, that's how it is. It's fine. But as far as to make them understand that they're a business, that's the owner operators, because the company drivers is not really the case.
Okay.
But what can we do as a trucking community to make it more business minded rather than more cowboy, let's just take a load here and there type thing?
I don't think that a trucking company can do it all, okay? But I do think that the owner operator can educate themselves. I mean, now as far as you helping to lead them in the right direction, as far as providing them with those tools, but I think they need to run their business like a business and then know what those numbers are. If we're going to help them, for instance, we talked about turning down a load just for $30-$60 or something like that, and sometimes they say it's just the principle of the thing. I just can't. But what is it? Are you actually losing money, or is it just less profit? Once you take out your fuel and your labor and your maintenance and those other other costs, how much are you left with?
Correct.
You'd be surprised how much you're left with at the end of it all. Once you really,
I've seen it even on a one-way load, a local one-way load. Even if I bobtail a driver, if you break down the numbers, he's still, let's just say, he's still gonna be above 70% profit, 80% profit. And the rate, like let's just say the fuel is $20 and the dray is 100, that's $120. Even if the fuel is $20, it's $100 to him, it's $100 profit. So I try. That's like on a one way. If it's just $100 and he spends 20, 80% profit. So now, obviously, to that $80, there's still a little bit more that comes to it. So you might only end up making $60 at the end, or 55, but it adds up the more loads you do. Now on the owner operator side, I've seen it to where they calculate it per load, and if they bobtailed once, they already lost $180, $150, $120. To them, it's not that they're bobtailing and losing that fuel. They're losing the dray that they didn't take. But I try to tell them, look, for this one you're not taking, you're gonna make up for it on these next ones. But
since you mentioned that's the one thing I was thinking is that you have to think in the long game, I guess. How this stuff averages out over the week. I mean, when you have expenses, especially as an owner operator, when you have expenses, you're gonna have those ebbs and flows, those up and downs. But what does it look like at the end of the week? Don't just look at it from one load to the next. This one load, I have to get rich off this one load. It has to be this exuberant amount of money that I'm winning off of, and I feel good going down the road. And then the next load you turn out with, when you average it out, what did you really make at the end of the week? You get a few good paying loads, but I mean, your gross is so low.
Dude, I used to tell drivers all the time. I'm like, if at the end of the week, after all of your expenses, you still bring home $1,500, $2,000, that's a very good week. After your expense, now, what you have outside of the job, I don't know. Like, that's out of our control as far as a company and as far as a business and as far as a dispatcher or a CSR. Like, for instance, if you have a truck note on a $50,000 truck, that's not the dispatcher's thing to worry about. He's just got to get the loads covered to the best of his abilities with the drivers he has right there in hand. If you refuse a load, that's just hurting you in the long run. Now, if you're out of hours, if you have personal things to do, I get that. But don't hold it to the dispatcher that you're not making money on certain times like that. Now, the company drivers on the aspect, I've seen how, like on those, some of them want to become owner operators. And some of them follow the owner operator's mentality, or not mentality, their business model. The same, they keep doing the same thing. How can we change that? Okay, because you're a company driver, you're paying taxes, you're getting insurance and all that. Once you become an owner operator, that kind of eliminates from itself. How can we kind of keep that same process going? Because some guys are good at it and they're educated on it and they can run the business that way, and then some guys can't. Well,
one of the things I would suggest, especially for a new owner operator starting out, is to try to pay yourself as a company driver. You kind of live within your means for a while till you get some money underneath you, because if you start splurging as soon as you get those paychecks, I mean, you are destined for failure.
It is.
You know, you gotta have some cash reserves. But I tell you, now that I'm thinking about it, another thing that would really help the owner operator would be to have someone who can help you plan your taxes, like a tax strategist. There's a difference between a tax planner and a tax preparer. So yes, this guy may have help you with your deductions and help you prepare your taxes, but a strategist is someone who could tell you, okay, you can take out this amount for retirement, this amount could go here. So you're not left at the end of the year, well, I got to spend $10,000, or they're going to tax me on it. But why can't you put that into a financial vehicle to build up a retirement of some sort that you can still get a write-off for, instead of just
use taxes to your advantage,
Yes.
not to your disadvantage.
Yes.
And a lot of drivers, unfortunately, are being hit, a lot because they're not using their taxes to their advantage. And that's the truth. You're right on that. That's one thing I try to preach to our drivers here, man, because we have not a hard time, but a lot of our guys make pretty decent money, and to see them at the end of the year having to come up with a chunk of change to pay their taxes, you're like, dude, if you could just put that back into your 401k or into your retirement or your IRA account, whatever the people do, that would be great. Instead of giving it to the government, you keep more of it. But I think as an industry, we could do a better job, not just safety education, but business education. If I would say this, whoever wants to learn, not make it an obligate, it's a mandatory thing. You know what, guys? We're here on Saturdays from 8 to 10. If you want to show up, we're here. If you don't, we tried. Maybe, I don't know. And then like I said, I'm an advocate for like the Spanish speakers learning English.
Right.
And I want those guys to at least have enough to defend themselves out there on the road. But you can't lead a horse to drink. You know what I'm saying? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. One of those things. Same thing goes with the business mentality. Like, as a trucking community, we can do everything possible to bring those drivers in to learn new things, but are they gonna come in?
Well, I mean, that's just like, I think, again, you mentioned LLC, incorporating your business. There's so much risk that you take out there by not being incorporated. I mean, if something happens, they can come after you.
In your house.
Stuff like that you work hard for, something that you're trying to leave behind for your family, as a retirement. Some people use, they leverage that type of stuff to retire with, or, to buy different properties, and all of that can be gone in just one
accident.
Yes, it's gone.
Yeah. No, I agree, man. I agree with that. I agree. All right, now that we're on that topic, that we're telling people not to lose everything that they work for, what is some advice that you would give to a new driver coming into the trucking industry? Brand new driver, just got his license, or working on getting his license. What is an advice that you would give somebody? Let's say me. I've never driven a truck. I've never had a CDL, but I want to become a driver. I'm enthusiastic about driving. I see people making money, tons of money, supposedly, from what I've been here. What advice would you give me coming on as a new to the trucking industry, in a driver role, company driver role? What should I expect?
Look, I'm old school. So if you ask me, I would say be prepared to pay dues.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes a driver would think that because I have a license that it's automatic. You gotta get your track record behind you. Protect your license. Don't do anything that's gonna run you the risk where you get a ticket or you get these blemishes on your license where now you can't get a decent job.
Most places will hire you within 1 to 2 years experience, or no?
Generally it's 2 years.
2 years
Yes.
experience. Now, what type of jobs can you get before those 2 years experience driving? Now, I know there's big, large companies that hire you directly out of school. I mean, I don't want to mention names, so I don't want to put people out there, but are they stressful jobs, good trucking jobs, more labor jobs in truck? Because I know, for instance, like the food delivery trucks, you might have to, unload and load your own trucks. So with the first 2 years, you're gonna have to grind it in trucking. Pretty good.
Yeah, well, now for instance, like a Class B would be easier to get without having a bunch of experience. Well, Class B, but for a Class A, having to have 2 years experience, usually the some of the larger carriers, are set up to handle you coming fresh out of school.
Right.
And if you don't know what to expect, I mean, expect to be gone.
Yeah. You'll get tired of it pretty quick.
Right. If you don't have the right support system, I've seen guys, inside of their trucks in tears, because they can't go home, and their wife or their girlfriend is complaining, well, you'll never hear anymore, and I mean their relationship is, so nobody really wants to do that anymore.
You know what you're getting into.
Yeah, know what you're getting into.
I think one of the biggest things that I would tell drivers on if you're gonna be starting off, like us, at least in the Evans family, you have to have at least 1 year of verifiable driving experience. Now, doesn't mean you're gonna be a professional, but you have enough under your belt to where you've driven a little bit. What Stafford is talking about as far as sleeping in your truck and not being gone for long periods of time, that's reality. That's the truth in trucking. A lot of times you're gonna spend the night in your truck and you're gonna be gone for 2-3 days at a time, sometimes weeks at a time, depending on what type of loads you're working on.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be mentally prepared for something like that. Your family has to be prepared for you to be gone sometimes for a few days on end. So that's important to learn about the trucking community. If you want to come in and just work 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, you can. It's doable. Chances are you'll be at a specific area, financially probably, or you'll find a real good company to work for eventually that you can work those hours that'll pay you real good. So that's another one. It's just you have to pay your dues at the beginning. I highly agree with that. You can't come in your first year or two expecting to make a ton of money or thinking that you're gonna be given the best loads, because you're new or something like that. That goes for any company if you hire on. I think a lot of drivers think that when they hire on to a new company also, they're gonna get the best loads, or sometimes that's not the case, and sometimes you gotta pay your dues too at a new company.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the company has to learn to trust you. I mean, why put someone on a dedicated account that's feeding everybody for someone who may or may not show up on time?
Yeah. The time, the punctuality thing on trucking, man, it's difficult.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, especially on the owner operator side, that they are their own bosses per se.
Mm-hmm.
Some guys are good. They're good about knowing that they gotta be here at 6 or 7 or 8 or whatever. Some other guys, once they find out that they can make their own hours and they work their own hours, it's a downslope.
Mm-hmm.
Like at the first few years, they're grinding.
Mm-hmm.
Once they get the hang of it, it's just downhill from there.
Well, you know what I think? I mean, I think the owner operators need to look at it this way. If you hired a driver who was doing what you're doing in your truck, how long would you keep him? Okay, because you would want that driver to be productive as often as possible in order for you to make money and for you to maintain your truck. And if he's calling in on Fridays and coming in late on Mondays,
yeah, I've always told him, like an owner operator, or even when I worked back in the Jetco days, I would tell the drivers, like the ones that would train drivers, I'm like, look, the driver that you would hire for your truck is the driver that I'm looking for. The driver if you have a truck and you want that truck moving, whatever person you want to hire for that truck is the same person I'm looking for. That's it. You're not going to look for something that is not going to be there.
Right.
That's what I would tell. And same thing goes for like the trainers. If you're training a driver for a dispatcher, I would tell the driver, okay, guys, this is a plan I'm going to be working with for 10 hours a day,
mm-hmm.
8 hours a day, 9 hours, 11 hours, whatever the case may be. Please don't bring me a problem.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to work for 10 hours a day with a problem. That's what I would tell the trainers. I'm like, I know you're going to watch him, make sure that he knows how to drive, that he knows how to back up, that he knows how to pre-trip and post-trip.
What's his work ethic look like?
That.
I mean, I would want someone who's going to work as hard or harder than I do. If he's going to drive a truck that I own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about if a trainer doesn't report a driver like that?
Well, honestly, I mean, just the simple answer is he shouldn't be a trainer. I mean, because that comes with the territory. It is that trainer's job to screen the drivers for potential issues like that, you know. And I mean, some things can be coached, but it's hard to coach work ethic.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah,
either you want it or you don't.
That is true, man. All right, well, guys, we've been a little bit in, but I have a few more things to say. I want to have a little not smart, but a little bit of fun with this. I have 3 questions, 3 pop quiz, not pop quiz, but they're the fire round, I guess I could say.
Okay.
And this question is going to be interesting, this last one. I don't even have to write it down. Okay, question number 1. What do you miss the most about driving?
I think I miss the scenery. You know, I was the type I prefer long haul. You know, I mean, local is fine because you go home every night. You have a life. I miss the scenery. I miss seeing some of the mountains and open road. You know, that type of stuff. When the leaves change in autumn. You know, up here in Virginia somewhere.
Right?
No. But you understand, I mean, that's a nice sight. If you never seen it for miles and miles, man, man, come on.
I've heard about, like, for instance, I drove Highway 70 with me and Christy. We drove. I mean, it was beautiful. The bad thing is, we only saw it like at the end when it was starting. The sun was coming up. We drove at night. But I know Highway 70. They said it's beautiful. On the Highway 1 going from California up to like Oregon or something. I know there's highways out there that are great, man. We have drivers here that they love going to Colorado. They love going to Maine, Vermont, even Arizona. Man, I've heard it's nice. Like, it's a boring of a drive because it's, you know, but I've heard it's nice. But that's what you miss the most, driving.
Well,
I mean, I get it. Trust me, don't get me wrong.
If you go to Colorado in the spring when the snow is melting and the creeks and the rivers and stuff are flowing, people rafting, man, that's interesting, man.
That's cool.
Man,
Cool.
that was probably one of the most favorite things I had.
Watching stuff.
Yeah.
Because you get to see where you want to go on vacation if you ever go. Right?
Exactly.
That's cool.
It's almost like a free vacation, really.
Pretty much. Yeah, no, I agree. You can take the family. It's even better.
Right.
All right. The second one is, how do you see the future of trucking? What do you see it? Do you see it changing? Do you see it staying the same? What do you see changing?
Well, first of all, we know it's going to change. Nothing can stay the same. Okay. I would hope that they would, you know, make improvements on what we talked about here earlier, as far as, you know, having people to stay out and gone away from their families, you know, especially for some of the pay that I've seen them offer drivers, you know. If there were a way to qualify them and get them some experience regionally, you know, I think that would kind of bring more young people in and probably help to reduce, I guess, the driver shortage.
Regional first before they send them out there to the wolves?
Maybe, you know, but I mean, but some way of qualifying them, you know, for that, you know, so they can gain some experience and they can still have a family, because we're not wired like that anymore. You know, 20, 30 years ago, you know, people, well, they knew, the family knew that you were going to go off and you were going to create a better life. Now it's like, I mean, with this cell phone and stuff, we're so much more connected now, and to ask someone to go out for that length of time and stuff, it can be difficult. Now, I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, because I enjoyed it. I mean, but it's not for everybody. Yeah. We got to look at the mentality of the new people who are entering the industry, and how do we attract them?
Correct. No, I agree with that, man. Honestly, I didn't see it that way, but it makes perfect sense. No, you're right. All right. Now, the last one that I didn't even write it down, I didn't even have to write it down. Now, you're one of the few that can say something to this, but what is it like working for me?
Huh? What? What are you saying?
Or remember when I dispatched you? What is it like me dispatching you, in other words? What are the things? It don't matter, good or bad, it don't matter, because I know I'm a special person when it comes to certain dispatches.
Okay, since you brought that up, let me let me give this some context. One of the things that you often said is that you told me that I was always right and you were never wrong.
Yeah.
You know, and so we would tend to kind of, you know, bump heads about a lot of the stuff, you know, but dispatching for you, dispatching from you was it made me profitable. You know, of course, as a driver, you always think that you could do it better. You know what I'm saying? But you don't see the whole picture as a driver. You don't see the boarding and orders coming in. I think that dealing with you, I learned to trust the dispatcher, which most people don't have. You know, there's always something where they're thinking, hey man, you know, he's giving this load, he's giving that load. If you can have that trust your dispatcher, you can take any load they give you, and you know they're gonna take care of you.
Yeah, and that's the earning the driver's trust is hard.
Yeah. Oh, and I've seen you try to you tried to break me one time. I see you ran me out there. I know what you were trying to do, but I was hell bent on not giving in to that. You know. So
I pushed. I was a service. If I got 10 minutes, I'm gonna see if I get the 10 minutes out of the driver. No, I'll give you that.
Yeah. So you tended to be a little pushy, but I was let's just say I was determined.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, to make it happen. You know, I wasn't gonna set myself up to fail in it. Yeah.
Here's the thing. I think as a dispatcher, the mentality is I have to provide for the drivers that I have.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't look at it as I have, for instance, if you have 10 drivers, you don't. To me, you have 10 families. And if you see it that way, I think you're gonna be able to be more understanding of certain situations. Not all, but certain.
All right.
You have the office personnel to where they're gonna tell you, okay, you got truck A that makes 300 a week, you got truck B that makes 600, you got truck C that makes 1,000. Why is truck A making X amount? Why is truck C making? So when you have those conversations with the office people, and then you see, okay, sometimes some of the, let's just say as a dispatcher, it's not fair to dispatch all the drivers the same because everyone's different.
Mm-hmm.
They have different abilities.
Mm-hmm.
To not know that is a very big problem for a dispatcher. To think that everybody is the same, to want to dispatch everybody the same. That was my problem, I think, back then when I was younger. I'm still young, but I think I've learned more about that. For instance, let's say Stafford has a family and, you know, he picks up his kids every day at 8 o'clock in the morning, you know, or drops off his kids every day at 8 o'clock in the morning for school or to school, whatever. If I'm more mindful of that, I think I can go a long way with the driver.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't care about that, okay, so I don't, you know, you gotta be with your kid at 8 o'clock. Yeah, but I got a load for you at 8 o'clock. You know, if I constantly take over your role, like I think that if I was a dispatcher now, back then I didn't see it that way, but now, if I'm taking more time from you already from your household,
Okay.
I'm doing you a disservice.
Mm-hmm.
Cause I can make you money. You're already working 70 hours a week. You have the ability to. What's 2 hours? What's an hour? I didn't see that back then. You know.
Right. I mean, you know, look, I think as a dispatcher, you kind of like, you got to know the strengths and weaknesses of the people you're dispatching. Yeah. You know, when you say having to explain why one driver's making $300, I mean, it depends on that's kind of really low, but I mean, it depends on what the needs are of that driver, you know, and some people may not have a family, you know, they're just individuals and they have I've seen owner operators who were happy to make a $900 settlement. And I've seen some owner operators would complain for a $3,500 settlement. It should have been more, you know, that type of thing. So
I ain't making enough.
Right, you know, and then but there's a place for almost every skill set that a driver could bring. You can utilize the majority of that. And when you're talking about productivity, again, if you trying to dispatch everybody the same, yes, there is a number where productivity starts and stops. Okay, but at the same time, you have drivers that have different strengths. Some drivers love to start early. Yeah, they'll start early.
They hate late dispatches, man.
They'll start early and they will stay until it's done. And then you got some drivers who, you know, at the same time, you have some drivers who prefer to start late and work late.
Yeah.
You know, and that's, I mean, on your bench, you probably need that to kind of round off your bench, you know.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, man. On that one, it's hard because it's hard to please everybody when everybody has their own agenda too.
Mm-hmm.
And on that aspect, you're right. If I dispatched an early driver late, he would get mad. If I dispatched a late driver early, he would get mad. So knowing who to dispatch on what and their abilities, that's key to dispatch. And in some part, I blame myself for a lot of that because I knew some of it and some of it I didn't. And some of it I try to take advantage of as a dispatcher. Like as a younger person, you try to push the limits. Now that you know those limits, you don't push them anymore. You know. Like I said, if I knew then what I know now, but like I said, I try to tell drivers, my intentions were always good. They've always been good.
Okay.
And it's just, can I provide for your family at the same time providing for the customers, for the company? That's the tricky part. And you know, if you gotta help me as much as I gotta help you. You know, we gotta lead each other 50-50. You know?
Yeah.
All right, man. Let me see. I guess if you want to shut down with some closing statements, man.
Closing statements.
Yeah, dude. If you have something to say as far as trucking wise, what do you recommend people do? Here's what I think. There's a lot of customers that don't know what drivers go through on a day-to-day basis. Like on our side, they're just worried about getting the load covered. Where's my driver? Where's that load? Well, how come, you know, it's an 8 o'clock appointment, it's 8:15, how come he's not there? What do trucking companies need to know about drivers? What do people, brokers, logistics people need to know about a driver that, you know, before you close up, what do people need to know about drivers? I mean, I always tell them they're human.
They're human, exactly.
You know?
They're human, you know, and then we don't live in a vacuum, man. Stuff happens, you know, people have blowouts and this, that, and the other, there's traffic conditions. I mean, maybe the driver wasn't feeling well that day. You know, maybe he had to, when he did his pre-trip, he noticed something he had to repair that took a little longer than he thought. But I don't think that there's one exact thing that you can do other than considering, you know, I guess the human aspect of it. I think that's what people need to wrap their minds around. When, you know, when you hold up again, we go back to getting in and out of, you know, an appointment or delivery. You know, these people have families to go back home to. You know, they have other things going on, just like the people in the office. You know, so they gotta go.
We get to go home, they don't sometimes.
Right. So you know, some people from the warehouse, they're they're going home cracking a beer. You know, they're at the house with their feet propped up. You know, and you know their drivers still out there grinding. You know, so you know.
I guess be more conscious of them being human, right? Because honestly, they're out there. I guess you could say they're in their own little cubicle.
Okay.
With 4 wheels.
Okay.
They're by themselves. They're isolated. So a little bit of help goes a long way, and knowing that they exist, more important. I mean, like for us, knowing that they want water. You know, you see them out there tarping loads, offer them water.
Yeah, that's and look, maybe this is probably something I shouldn't get into, but I mean, I'm having a hard time, you know, wrapping my mind around not having a facility where a driver can use the bathroom. You know, they'll say stuff like, and I get it. You know, if you only have one bathroom, but if you have something in the warehouse that you can, you know, allow a driver to use the bathroom. I mean, I've heard it say, well, it's not for the general public, but at the same time, you're actually a customer. You know, you're conducting business there. I think
be polite and have a bathroom. Man.
Yeah, I mean, something. You know, like you said, water. Something as simple as that. I mean, so would you rather give him a few bottles of water, have him pass out on your property?
Correct. And it's happened on some people's property.
Yes. You
know,
know,
I agree, man. I agree. So anything you want to close on before you go?
No, man. I mean, I'm good. I mean, so.
Thank you. First, I want to thank you for coming, man. And most importantly, honestly, like I said, I personally like talking to people who know about trucking. You can have an honest conversation and a intelligent back and forth conversation with people about trucking. Because sometimes you talk to people about trucking, you're like, okay.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like we can talk, but you know? That's where that conversation ends, like pretty quick. 5 minutes in, you're like, okay, that's how much you know. But no. The idea of these videos are to bring knowledge to people, to bring some perspective into a different aspect of trucking, not necessarily just, you know, the warehouse side of things or the CEO side of things. I think that there's a lot of people that work day to day in trucking that bring a lot of value to what we do, and quite frankly, the pawns, like the soldiers, they're the ones in the front line So they're the ones who really see what happens on the day-to-day operation,
Right.
in my opinion. So talking to people like that is very valuable in trucking. I mean, you're gonna learn from them probably than you would more the CEO or something like that. But yeah, I want to thank everybody for listening. If you watched the whole video when I post this, I want to thank the Evans Delivery family. I want to thank Stafford for being here. My old employer, Jetco, thank you guys for letting me borrow Stafford. Not that he needed it, but great company to work for, great people up there. I was there with them for a while. Nothing bad to say about them. Great operation, big operation. One of the most important trucking companies here in the Houston area. I definitely recommend people do business with them. And same thing here in the Houston area. If you guys need anything for, trucking, reach out to Houston. Orion, Steadfast, we're here to help. Stafford, if you guys need anything from Stafford, if y'all want to reach out to him, I'll tell him about anything, questions or any concerns or whatever y'all want to ask him. But yeah, man, thank you for coming. Man, I appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me, man. And I'm telling you what, I really admire and respect what you're doing, because this is something that's well needed. We need more of this.
Yeah, man.
Yes.
More people need to learn about trucking, not just I want to go make money.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about making money.
Mm-hmm.
It's knowing safety, knowing rules, knowing regulations, knowing laws, hours of service, pre-trip, post-trip, all that.
Right.
And some people really don't see that side of it. When they get into it, what? I have to do what?
Mm-hmm.
I thought I was gonna come turn on the truck and go.
Mm-hmm.
No, man.
Yeah.
So teaching people that side of things is what I really truly think that we need to do in trucking and educate the people.
Right.
But no, man, I appreciate it. Thank you for coming, and we'll do this again.
All right.
Bye, man.
Good.
Hello, internet world. This is Martin with Steadfast Warehousing and Orion Intermodal here in Houston, and we hope you like these videos that we're starting to make. We hope you learned something. We hope they're valuable to you. We hope you can use these on a day-to-day basis, or at least some of these conversations. Thank you for listening. Welcome to YouTube channel that we have, and I don't know what this is. Thank you guys. We're figuring this out little by little.